Breaking Black podcast. You are here with your host, Tina G, and the lovely, fancy Arlee. Today, we got some exciting, spicy topics to talk to you about. That's right. You heard me here. I think I mentioned this before in the past. I was unfortunately in a situationship that I did not want to be involved in at the time, and we'll get more into that. What are your thoughts about kind of diving into these spaces of being in like these secret relationships?
I ooh, I listen. Being being grown is some hard work when you got needs. You know what I'm saying? Like my thing is this: if you want to have these, as you call them, rendezvous, these situationships and things of that nature. I like options, so give me the option. I might be down. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, some people I feel, Tina, just like the whole fact of being able to sneak around and whatever, because that makes it spicy, right? So it's like, what was the song? It's morning, right? You know what I mean? So you get to wake up, you're like, oh, shoot, and do that walk of shame. It's something fun about that, right? I mean, I ain't never did it. You know what I'm saying? Not that no, I don't think I ever been nobody's side nothing. Not that I knew of. You know what I mean? Because that ain't my thing. You know what I'm saying? But it is something exciting grabbing your shoes and sneaking out that house. You know what I'm saying? Like Megan Trainor said with that bed head, you know what I'm saying? Doing that walk of shame and things like that. So I think with that, some people have that. That is what they kind of thrive off of. That's what they get off on, the whole excitement of it all. So I don't always think that once a cheater, always a cheater. I really honestly don't believe that. And nor do I believe that all men cheat, nor do I believe that people cheat just because their partner is lacking or did A, B, and C. I really think that some people like the whole spice of it all, the whole thrill of the sneak. You get what I'm saying? Like having a sneaky link is exciting. You sitting here chatting and talking and doing something different because you maybe your spouse, maybe y'all don't do that no more. Maybe your spouse ain't into that, and maybe you don't, whatever. I'm not justifying it, but I'm just saying that I kind of see how some people like that kind of thing because it's different, it's spicy, and sneak, and just like being a kid and you're not a thief, but taking that little piece of candy at the store was exciting, you know what I mean? So the stick in your hand where it don't belong for anybody can be exciting. I'm not saying you a cheater, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you whatever, but do you see how that could be exciting to kind of sneak and kind of do some things that you ain't got no business, or are you just like, no, that's not, I would never grab, clench his pearls? Is that something that you turn your nose up to? Or do you see how someone could do that?
So it's interesting. I have never been the type of person who's been in a relationship and desire to, have like a side piece or, have somebody outside of the relationship. If I want to be single, I'm just single and I just, enjoy my single freedoms. I don't really like making commitments to people and I'm not going to honor them. But as I talked about on this episode, and I talked about previously on our episodes where we were talking about side pieces, I did find myself in a situation where I essentially was reintroduced to a person that I had met many, many, many years before. And during the time when I met this person, met them in a working environment, and they were single to my knowledge. And we kind of maintained a friendship throughout the years, but I didn't know that they had actually gotten into a relationship. And so ended up, dating. And unfortunately, I later on discovered that this person was not single. They were in a very serious long-term relationship that I was not made aware of. And I mentioned before on the previous episode that we did together that I had been out, with this person. We had been to public events, we went to restaurants, we were making regular appearances together. So it was completely unbeknownst to me. I mean, even the events that we were at was a party where, all hundreds of people are around. And so there was nothing that would have made me thought that this wasn't a single person just because of the way that we were, hanging out with each other in the public. So when I found out about that, I was devastated. I mean, I'm not even going to I was devastated that I had poured my emotion, into the relationship. Made me really unhappy when I found out about it. And But to your question, what I found out in having communication with the gentleman who kind of set all of this in motion was that that was kind of the experience that he had, being with me. He found me to be fun and exciting and carefree, and, was able to kind of do things with me that I guess maybe, he wasn't able to do at home or whatever that situation was. And so I wasn't happy about it. I was very devastated by it. I was very unhappy that he didn't, he came in with dishonesty. He wasn't transparent, because had I had known that that was the situation he was in, I would have never entered that relationship, but I wasn't aware. So when I found out, the interesting thing, if I'm being truthful, is sometimes when you have your emotions caught up and romance is caught up, you might find something out and decide that you want to break away, but it's not always a clean break, right? Sometimes it takes you some time to get your feelings out of it, to get your mind out of it. And so when you talk about that space where you're kind of feeling like, ooh, this is kind of, interesting, I felt like once I found out, I was so angry about it. I took a break for a while, but I think like once we started to reconnect, where I was kind of just trying to get sort of those apologies and get an understanding, we kind of had that space where we kind of were seeing each other for a little bit, during that period. And it was like, there was a little bit of an exhilaration with sort of like knowing that there was like this nuance that was like, it was kind of like forbidden fruit, if you will. I wouldn't say I took pleasure in that, but there was a part of me that was like, I've been involved in this and I'm just not willing to just break away like this. So it took me a while to kind of wrap my mind around it. And also, you're going through the process of like learning details that you didn't know, right? It's very rare that you ever get like your relationship blown out of the water and you just like learn everything in one day, right? It tends to come out in bits and pieces. So there's kind of like that period where you don't really know everything that's going on and you're kind of learning those things. Once I actually came to learn what it really was, I completely broke away from it. I was completely done with it, ceased all contact, deleted all media, all those kinds of things. But it was just like, it was an interesting space, because I've had friends that have been in situations like this and they're completely comfortable in those side relationships. They're completely comfortable in those affairs. In fact, I've had people that actually say they prefer to deal with somebody that's already kind of involved in the situation so they can kind of get what they need and just break away whenever they want. Now, I'm not judging people on what they decide to do. Just having come out of a relationship like that, it was very devastating to me, and I would never want to put somebody else through that. How do you feel? I mean, you mentioned that you've never kind of been in that situation, but I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship with somebody where maybe you're that person that's that main person in a relationship, and maybe the other person is going outside of that relationship and you know what it feels like to be on that side. Or maybe even having somebody approach you that isn't single, either during a time when you were single or when you were married. Like, have you ever kind of had any of those kinds of experiences?
I mean, exes of mine could be watching this right now saying, ha ha ha, I cheated on you. I didn't know about it. Like, if it happened to me, I'm being all the way a G right now and saying I never knew about it. They were that good at hiding it or whatever have you. So I never was the type to go through phones and looking for things that I would find, or, snooping. That's never been my style. So if it was something that I didn't know about and it was happening, then hey, I guess I just didn't know, because looking back, I honestly don't see really any red flags per se that kind of would have led me to think that somebody was doing that. I mean, I have had people who weren't really solely there and weren't emotionally available, so maybe they were. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't care. I don't know. But I have had situations where people have come up to me trying to holler at me and things like that. Even somebody who I was with, family member, came up to me and tried to, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, are you serious? Is that like, wow? And I'm talking about, this was a very, very, very close family member to this person. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, are you kidding? First of all, ew. You know what I mean? Like I would never do that. And second of all, ew, because you're hell of ugly. Like, you know what I mean? Like stop playing. You don't even have nothing to entice nobody. Because if you think about it, a lot of times it's money involved when it's, and I'm not even trying to be funny, but the situations that I've seen, it's been to where, you know what I'm saying, if I'm gonna be your thigh piece, ain't you, you know what I'm saying, you gonna have to give me some hush money. Or if I'm, you know what I'm saying, if I was thinking, ain't you supposed to be giving me something in return? You can't come to the table ugly and it broke. You know what I mean? Like, that was the thought problem, like the audacity of you to do this to your family member. And then that kind of leaves me in an awkward place. You're like, should I say something? Should I not? Because obviously I'm not going to. Should I just keep the peace with that friend or family member and not say anything? Or should I just blow your whole spot up and just say something? You know what I mean? I haven't had it to where a female friend of mine, dude, have tried to holler at me, maybe flirt and stuff, because you know people have that natural flirt about them. So I didn't read too much into anything like that. I'm not the one to jump to conclusions and be weird like that. But yeah, absolutely. I really think that if you nobody can pull me from my wife. That's period. I don't care what you offer me. But if I was vulnerable enough to do that, you would have to. I'm just hypothetically speaking. You'd have to bring something to the table, and I would hope she wouldn't be stupid enough to leave me for the brokey. And look at me, I'm cute. You know what I'm saying? I do what I'm supposed to do as a wife, and if I don't, tell me, please, like let me know. I feel like we're old enough to have that conversation. If one wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, then we can sit down and talk about it and find a common ground, right? But if the wife, when you see this episode, if you cheat, please let her have some money. Don't be, you know what, Tina, you know what I'm talking about. It's got to be something there that's going to be beneficial to where, you know what I'm saying? So, oh, it's the best of both worlds. Okay, well, this person has the money and this person really doesn't, but then the person that doesn't is really a good person. I could see them being a great parent to my children one day. Listen, we can't piece together these people, and nor can you, in my opinion, find everything that you need in one person. I just don't think that is out there. No one's perfect in that way to where we're just like, oh my God, we're the perfect match. Because me and my wife are polar opposites. You know what I'm saying? There are certain things that I wish you'd be like, dang, man, I really wish my wife knew how to dance so we could, because I be boogieing, you know what I mean? She just gonna stand there. So yeah, certain little things like that. But I don't mean I'm gonna go out and find somebody who know how to bust it down on the dance floor. It's not that serious to me. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, like I said, you gotta be really something to pull me away from something that I'm at. And even at our lowest of low moments, nobody can still come in and infiltrate that. So to me, I think that if you leave that space and opportunity for somebody to slide in and they slide in, then that's on you. That's on you. So also the victims of people who cheat, you got to take a look in the mirror too and find out what it is and sit down and have that conversation. So if you were married though, Tina, and your husband did cheat on you, but he came to you and told you, oh my God, I did this thing. And I mean, he really was remorseful. Is that something that you can forgive? Or is that something that you're just like, you know what? It's a deal breaker for me. Never, ever, ever. Like, what about you? How do you feel about that in a marriage?
That's a tough question for me, right? Because it's something that I've thought about for a really, really long time. And one of the reasons why I'm not married and haven't been married yet, I'd love to be married, but I also want to make sure that I'm going into a marriage with somebody that shares the same values that I have about marriage. And I've seen very long-standing marriages in my family, 40, 50, years, and I plan to do a lifetime with my marriage partner, right? So I'm not unrealistic. I think that infidelity is hard. It's difficult. Whether it's physical cheating, emotional cheating, or you're teetering the line between the two, I think that it's very difficult to maintain commitment to someone decades and decades and decades in, right? It's a commitment that people have to make to each other. And everybody's marriage looks different For me, though, marriage is monogamous. Marriage is monogamy. And so I don't plan to go into marriage inviting other people into our marriage. I don't think infidelity is something that I would necessarily be willing to stick through. I saw this interview where a couple was doing an interview together where they were talking about sort of setting the ground rules for their marriage before they got married. And I think that any partner that I marry, he would have to come in with the same mentality about infidelity that I have, which is that once we get married, we're making a commitment to being exclusive with one another. With that being said, I'm also like not a very clingy type of person. I'm not the type of person that needs to know like everything that you're doing, where you're at. You don't have to check in with me every 2 seconds. And maybe I can say that because I'm not married, but I feel like even if I was married, I'd want my husband to have like his own identity, and I have my own identity, and I don't necessarily feel like everything that we do has to be tied into one another. So I'm going to give you all of those freedoms that you had when you were an individual. You know, take your trips, hang out with your friends, you know, experience life. I don't want to take any of those things away from my partner, right? That's just me. But I do feel like when it comes to the covenant of marriage and the commitment of marriage, those are probably the 2 strongest things that I identify in marriage. Making sure that you're committed to a marriage, making sure that you respect and honor the covenant of marriage, and communication is that third C, where I feel like if it gets to the point where you're so unhappy or so unfulfilled in the marriage, or you're just seeking something else, then we need to be able to sit down and have a conversation of how that's going to look. So I applaud, you know, what you said about if a man were to cheat and he came home and said he made this mistake. But I'm going to challenge that idea and say, before you even make that mistake, sit down with me as your wife and let me know where you are not being fulfilled, where your needs are not being met, why you have these desires for these urges, because maybe I have the power within me to become a person that can start sort of being aware of these things, you know, making different transformations in the way that I'm behaving as a wife and trying to fulfill these other areas. And let's just keep it real. I mean, y'all see me on the show. I wear every hair color, every hairstyle. I change up the style. I mean, I can be your Tiffany, your Tamika, and your Tammy. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think there's a need. You know, if you need variety, let me know. I can give you variety. Believe that. And you know, that's how I feel about that. What's your thought? What are your thoughts about it? Like, do you feel like infidelity is like a deal breaker? Do you feel like there's allowances when you're, you know, going through marriage and growing with your partner? How do you feel about it?
Let me just say, Tina wasn't playing with y'all. Tina was like, baby, look, okay, Tina gonna give it to you. That's what she's saying, fellas. So if you out there, you got your ish together, you know what I'm saying? I'm just putting a plug in for my girl. I don't know if she ready to mingle, but she is single, and she, look at her, and she got her together. Okay, I'm just saying, Tina gonna give it to you. What I just heard her say. Okay. But girl, just to speak to what you just said, I feel like and we spoke about it before, forgiveness is major, and you have to also know though your worth and what your deal breakers are, and you have to stand firm on those. My thing is act away from me as you would in my presence. Okay, so if I see you, if you're a flirtatious person by nature and this, that, and the other, okay, you know what I'm saying, then I know that that's okay, because when I'm not around you, I know that you're not going to go beyond that. That's okay to me, you know what I'm saying? But act away from me as you will in my presence, meaning, trust me, when people cheat and they be like, oh, were you thinking of me when you cheat? Yes, you was, because come on, you got to be an evil person to have your spouse not, or your person that you're dating or whoever, not cross your mind when you lay that with somebody else. Come on, they're going to cross your mind at some point. Now, if you back up and move up out of there or whatever, maybe all could be forgiven. But if you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, you got to think about it. If you know you're doing something that you ain't supposed to be doing as a child, what do you think of? You think of your mama. Well, my mama would not like this. You think about your spouse when you about to cheat. So if they be like, oh, I wasn't thinking, I just whatever, then that means you have no impulse control and you are a psycho. Okay, let me just put that out there. So yes, you were thinking of your spouse. So ladies or fellas, if he or she tells you that they was not thinking about you, they are lying. And if so, you need to Forget any boundaries that you thought you didn't set, or forget any red flags, or just run. Because if they said that, they're lying. I'm just saying. Because that would be insane to not think about, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would be, to be honest with you, that would be the first thing I would think about if I were to kiss somebody or sneak and text somebody. I would be thinking about my wife. I'd be like, damn, I'm out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, with that being said, forgiveness does go a long way. And if you feel like the relationship is worth saving, I'm not here to judge and say, no, don't give this person a second chance. You know what I'm saying? Or even a third chance. But if that's something that you keep doing, then hey, I say kick rocks, because this person is not going to change, because you are allowing this behavior and they're going to keep doing that. But I also know that people are human, and people do, you know what I'm saying? I'm not even going to call cheating a mistake, because I've already determined that they was thinking about you when they was doing this. So it was a choice. So if they decide to choose to do that, right? If they decide to choose to do that, and they are genuinely sorry, and you guys work past that, the people who are getting cheated on, let me give you some advice. If you are cheated on, I really feel like if you decide to stay with that person, you have forgiven that person. I'm going to also throw in there that you need to forget about what they did. Because guess what? If you keep talking about it, and if you keep whatever like that, you're either going to push them further away, or you're going to end up doing something that you regret doing. And then there's no get back for that relationship. If you decide to stay with that person, then you got to ultimately just solely forget about it, or else it's going to rip your relationship to shreds. So if you genuinely forgive that person, you got to also honestly try your best to forget. If not, you're going to be bringing it up every 5 seconds. And Tina, just with that thought process, you know what I just thought about? It be the friends too. Sometimes, and I always said, if somebody cheat on me, I'm a beat up. Girl, I'm gonna beat up everybody involved. If it was your sister, I'm gonna beat her up. If it was your mama, if your mama knew it and invited him to the cookout, I'm gonna beat your mama up. Like, think about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anybody who had anything to do with this side piece getting involved or getting too close, everybody gonna get it. Your best friend, everybody, because y'all all knew. And to me, as a friend, you supposed to tell your friend, you know what I'm saying, to not mess up. Come on now. You know this is out of pocket or whatever. But if you allow that behavior, I can't stand for it. So how do you feel about the friends coming in and knowing this, and being loyal to the friend and not to the actual friend's safety even sometimes? Because I'm going to let you have it. If you knew about it, everybody going to catch the business. Do you think that single people should even go out with their, people that are married go out with their single friends? And if so, what kind of boundaries do you think that they should set for their single friends as it pertains to their relationship?
You know, that's been a really hard one for me. I used to have this friend. I used to tell him, you know, I never got the invite to the wives club, right? They had this thing where it was like this group of women that we knew. They were all married. I was the only one that wasn't married. And I always kind of felt like I was sort of ostracized, because it's like, oh no, she's a single one. It's funny because I knew a couple of the husbands, and they never had an issue with their wives hanging out with me. But it was almost like when all of the women got together, it was like, we don't know if we should have her come this time. We don't know if we should invite her this time. But the irony of that was, when we would go out, almost all of the people that I knew would always say, whoa, that person is married, they have a husband. Because believe it or not, it'd be my friend who was the wife backing it up on the dance floor, breaking it down on the dance floor, while I'm over at the bar with my single self getting a drink, right? So I'm like, sometimes when people are in a relationship and they're able to step out of that, it's almost like when they get out of their family dynamic, out of their, their marriage dynamic, that's when you start to see kind of like all the wild, sort of the untamed behavior come out. And so it's like, I hear that a lot. I thought the idea of me being single and hanging out with my married friend was so I could learn how to act like a wife. Like, I'm just like, so it's funny. I'm joking, I'm making light, but I have seen my married friends cutting it up on the dance floor, or cutting up when we're out in public. And so I'm like, is this her letting her hair down, or like, I don't know. I'm like, while I'm over here single and demure, you know what I mean? So I'm confused about that. I do think you have to be careful with what kind of friends you have in your environment. So if you're in a monogamous relationship and you're hanging out with single friends or married friends that like to take in the, the third, the fourth, swing or whatever, or single friends who like to bounce around a lot, I think you have to just be kind of mindful of like the environment that you're in and sort of whether or not those friends are going to respect the relationship you have, because that's what it ultimately comes down to. Notice that I said I respect commitment, I respect covenant. So if I'm out with my married friends, there's going to be nothing in my behavior that's going to tell a married person, hey, you should be behaving like this or that, because I respect covenant and I respect commitment, right? It's more so looking at people that might look at that a little bit differently and whether or not those things align with your value system or not. And so, yeah, I have a lot of fun as a single woman, but I also feel like there's a whole lot of married people out here living their single life too, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
Trust me.
Is there an advantage being married and having like married couples in your partnerships? Like, do you feel like they can be sounding boards when you are going through your relationship, if you have any difficulties, if there's growth that you want to have within your marriage? Like, do you feel like having like other couples around you to kind of solidify what you're building within your own relationship is necessary? Or do you feel like that's more so rooted in sort of how you approach your marriage, your partner approaches your marriage, and how you facilitate those behaviors together?
Yeah, that's a good question. Me and my wife, we don't really have too many like friends, you know what I'm saying? I have like my own individual friends and things like that. But my thing is they all respect my marriage, and I, you know what I'm saying? And the friends that I do have, if I'm out of pocket and I do tell them what's going on, they gonna check me when I need to be checked. You know what I'm saying? So I think that if I were to want to step out, I have the type of friends who would be like, girl, come on now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course nobody can tell you what to do, but they're not the type of friends to egg that on either. Because I guess that comes with growth. You get what I'm saying? Because I know they wouldn't want somebody to do that to them. But I'm also the kind of friend that will tell on you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying like necessarily my friend, but I'm like, girl, you better say something. Like, you know what I mean? I would never just go tell on you, but I'm gonna be like, look, you gonna have to tell. You know what I'm saying? But if I see her for significant, I'm telling. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell, you know what I'm saying, or give you the chance to tell. Somebody gonna get told on. You know what I'm saying?
You're like you believe in calling them out?
Absolutely. And I've been there before. I've done that before. Yes. And it actually was a pretty scary thing. I'm being honest. Like I not gonna say who or how or whatever, but I was in a situation where I was placed in a situation where it was like a family and close friend setting. It was like a dinner party many years ago. And I saw a friend of mine. We were dating mutually, friends, cousins, whatever, dating type of thing. And when I was there, she wasn't there, and I had said, oh girl, we about to go whatever. And I didn't know her dude was going to be there. And she wasn't here, but somebody else was with him. And I made little comments because I probably would have handled it a lot different now that I'm older, but back then I'm like, you know how we do, and it's, you know what I'm saying? And because I'm a beast like that, the person I'm with really can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't tell me nothing because I already had it in my mind that I'm going to destroy all of this thought process of you trying to cheat on my friend. You get what I'm saying? So somebody's going to feel uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying? And it ain't finna be me because I'm already uncomfortable. So I'm asking questions like, oh, how do you know him? Oh, y'all together. Oh, okay, that's cute. How long y'all been together? Sips tea. Take a sip of the drink. So I guess she caught on when I was laying down. So she started to feel uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying? And so I'm getting yoked up and all this stuff. What are you doing? And what are you doing? I'm having a good time. What are you doing? We all had a little family meeting, if you will, outside. And so I said, well, you're going to tell her, or am I? I said it just like that. I sure did. Are you going to tell her, or am I? Because somebody's telling. And of course, as a woman, sometimes you feel like, oh, she probably not going to believe it. No way. You know what I'm saying? And needless to say, he was very upset or whatever. He did end up going to pick up my friend. And, and she stayed with him. and he won that fight. I didn't win nothing. So to be honest with you, I had kind of told her my side because it all kind of blew up, whether she believed it or not. Either way it goes, they got busy that night. So I guess maybe she was okay with it. You know what I'm saying? But, so now I'm just like, dang, should I mind my business? Being older, I probably would handle it a lot different. I probably would have just pulled him to the side. I probably shouldn't have got the other young lady involved. You get what I'm saying? And I should have said what I had to say to him and let it be that. So I don't know, getting into other people's relationships like that. I said, if it's a friend or not, it just kind of makes you feel awkward. So I don't think people who are cheating out there, don't put people involved. So, and that's the thing but that was his arrogance to think that I wasn't going to say anything. I probably was supposed to fall in line, I guess. But, and that's the thing though, when people are cheating and side pieces and stuff like that, I think everyone plays a role. And sometimes people get out of those roles. You get what I'm saying? So as a side chick, you're supposed to be quiet. As a friend, you're supposed to be quiet and not say anything. What about you? Do you feel like everyone has a role in that and that they should simply play their role? Or do you think that they should actually say something if they see something?
I think everybody has a moral obligation. You know what I'm saying? I'm not judging the people who say, they mind their business. It's grown folks' business. They don't get in it. I'm not judging it. But me personally, I feel like I have to live by my moral compass and my integrity. So if I'm around something and it doesn't seem right to me or it doesn't seem integral to me, I'm not going to pretend that it is. I don't consider that to be judgment. I'm not judging a person based on the decisions that they make, but I am going to try to at least, point that person in what I believe to be the right direction and making sure that they're at least doing things fairly and being integral about the things that they do. And to your point, it is oftentimes a lot that it's the family members and the friends, as we know, that are like helping to facilitate these, these side pieces, these affairs. How many times has a side piece met the kids or met the parents or met the siblings or coworkers or it's a lot of the people that are in your environment will actually help to facilitate these behaviors. And sometimes they feel like it's not their place, but I'm also like, that sometimes that situation, in your case, the person stayed with the person they were with. It didn't have a huge bearing on the dynamic in the relationship, but there are some times when that might completely blindside someone, and it may be the reason why they decide to leave if they feel like they're being in a relationship where their partner's not being honest or their partner's not being committed to the things that they say that they're committed to. People should be given the opportunity to make the choices for themselves. I don't know why there's this culture of leading everything in dishonesty. We're human, we can take a lot. Most of us are pretty strong. And the majority of us, if you've lived long enough, you've been through enough as it is, right? Most of us can take just having a one-on-one conversation with somebody and kind of getting to those difficult spaces where we might have to make decisions based on how we're feeling, right? But people just don't give each other the benefit of the doubt. And so it's a strange, situation that oftentimes people are thrown into when there's secret relationships or affairs. I'm just not a fan of the things that are done in the dark. I feel like whatever you do in the dark, it tends to come to the light. So you may as well just kind of lead with transparency and maybe, set it up for being able to make whatever move you want to make and not have to be this secret or hidden thing that might be blindsiding somebody else. That's kind of how I feel about it. You know what I mean? If you want to be single, be single. If you want to be in a relationship, be in a relationship. If you want to be polyamorous, be polyamorous, but don't say that you're monogamous if you're not. I'm just kind of lead in a space where you're honest and transparent, and then you don't really have to worry about these kinds of things, happening. That's kind of how I feel about it.
I agree with that. Like I said before, I definitely believe in options. Give somebody the option because, again, you never know if that's what they're into or not. You know what I'm saying? And then just the whole poly life just is interesting to me because they let them know up front. You know what I'm saying? People, we sit here and bash that lifestyle so much, but guess what? They don't have a reason to lie. You know what I'm saying? They know what it is up front. This is what we're doing for whatever reason why they're doing it, whether it be religious or whether it be I want my cake and eat it too, or whether it be I want a village for my now kids, my future kids, whatever the reason is, at least they're upfront about it. So people who are out there that are cheating and that are getting cheated on and stuff like that, just talk about it and set those boundaries early and often, and have those check-ins, Tina. That's important too. Not only when we first start dating and saying what it is that we want. People say, "Oh, it's too soon," and I'm gonna scare them off if I tell them what I want in a relationship. No, you're not. That's the whole point. Like now, I'm noticing people are actually getting back to the point where they're not just dating, they're courting with the intention of, right, ending up together. So if I'm sitting here and telling you what I want, right, first date or not, and I'm telling you what I want, you're telling me what you want, and if it aligns, then we move forward, right? But if you're telling me these things and if it's not truthful and you're sending your representative, then that's not fair. Go be with somebody who actually, you know what? Have you ever thought about polyamory? Maybe that should be the first thing out your mouth on your first date. How do you feel about polyamory? You get what I'm saying? Or if I cheat, would you forgive me? Like, come on, put these things out there for people to actually have those options and have those choices to make, so that neither one of you are miserable and unhappy because now you didn't have babies and now this food and cheated and he didn't show me any red flags. And make sure that you are noticing those red flags early on. If you're dating somebody and you just might be the side chick and you don't know, if he's not returning your text when he typically do, if he's calling you at a specific time every day, all the time, like, okay, why is he only calling me? Pay attention to that kind of stuff, because he's telling you what type of person he is without telling you, or she's telling you. If somebody texts you at midnight talking about, so what you doing, big head, that means that they about to run to the store. they main when they about to run to the store real quick and come fly through. And if y'all sit in that car and talk or whatever, that's not cute. That means he got somebody. That's just my opinion. So do those check-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're right. And I'll add to that. It's a great point. Another thing I feel like is you need to learn how to ask questions. Because a lot of times we're in relationships and we're dating and we're making assumptions about people, about things that they did not say, things that have not been communicated to us, or assuming things that we haven't really asked questions about to find out. I know in my younger years when I was dating, I was not a really intrusive person. I did not ask a tremendous amount of questions. I kind of asked the basic things and kind of started letting things be uncovered. And now I realize I come in, I'm covering all bases. You know, are you married? Are you separated? Are you legally separated? Are you divorced? Have you ever been married? Do you have kids? You know, is there somebody out there that thinks they're your potential partner? Are you in a situationship? I mean, I'm going through every question that you can possibly ask. I kid you not. I mean, I used to stop at just, are you married? Have you ever been married? You know, I'm asking all the questions. I need to get all the clarity, just because, you know, I've been in a situation where I've said to someone, you know, are you married? And they say no. And then they come to find out this person is separated. And I'm like, but I asked you if you're married. They're like, but I'm legally separated. I'm like, but that's not divorce. So, oh, we want to play in the gray areas? Okay, check this out. I'm asking every question, down to the situationship, down to the, are you dating multiple people? Do you have an intention to sit? Are you even a monogamous type? Let's ask all the questions. So, but even in doing that, you still got people that are going to move out there with dishonesty. But you do have to read the room. And you're right about red flags. You have to pay attention to the red flags. We also, as women, we know we have a tremendous amount of women's intuition. I don't care what anybody out there says. We are very intuitive creatures. Women, sometimes you feel it in your gut. Sometimes you know that something's not right. A lot of the times you just have to trust, you know, that what you're feeling is legitimate for whatever reason. And that's a way to open up conversation and start asking questions to get better clarification. So I think communication is important. I think trust is important. I think transparency is important. And I hope that if you're listening out there, you at least lead in a space where you can be a little bit more open and transparent. And then also be open with your partner. You never know what they might be into or, you know, might consider. So give them a chance. Open up the conversation, communication. You know, we'll talk about this more in the future, I am sure. It's been a pleasure, you know, having this episode with everybody. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to Breaking Black Podcast on all platforms. Again, we are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Patreon. Follow us on all social media on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You've been with your host, Tina G and Fancy Arlee. We will be back this season with some more exciting episodes. We love to engage the fans, so please make sure you like and subscribe and drop a comment. Let us know what you think about the show and tune in for future episodes. We'll see you soon.